May 22, 1947, the day the Cold War officially began. In the history of the 20th century, there are dates that don't just change the calendar, they change the world. May 22, 1947 was one of them. That day, the President of the United States, Harry S. Truman, reaffirmed before Congress a foreign policy that would mark the beginning of a new global era, the Cold War. The announcement consolidated the so-called Truman Doctrine, a strategy to stop the expansion of communism and affirm U.S. hegemony in the Western world. But to understand how we got to that moment, we have to go further back. Background: tensions between Communist Russia and the capitalist powers began in 1917, after the October Revolution that established the Bolshevik government. Some foreign governments, like the United States, supported the counter-revolutionary sectors during the Russian Civil War. During World War II, those tensions were concealed. A temporary alliance between Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin allowed Nazism to be defeated. But when the war ended in 1945, the alliance quickly dissolved. Europe was divided. Germany was split into 4 occupation zones: 3 under Western control: United States, United Kingdom, and France, and 1 under Soviet control. The USSR also extended its influence over Eastern Europe, where its army had expelled the Nazis. Distrust grew. In 1946, Winston Churchill publicly spoke of an Iron Curtain separating Europe into 2 blocks: the West led by the United States and the East under Moscow's control. From then on, the division was not only territorial, it was also ideological. What was the Truman Doctrine? The Truman Doctrine was announced on March 12, 1947, and reaffirmed on May 22. Its objective was clear: to prevent communism from spreading beyond the areas controlled by the USSR. At that time, Greece was in the midst of a civil war, and Turkey was under Soviet pressure. Truman asked Congress for $400 million in military and economic aid. But what he proposed went beyond that situation. He said it clearly: it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or by outside pressures. With that phrase, the United States assumed the role of global policeman. Thus was born the policy of containment, which justified intervening in any country where communism threatened to grow. The Truman Doctrine was the first brick in the architecture of the Cold War. It was followed by the Marshall Plan, 1948, which offered economic aid to Western Europe to prevent post-war chaos from facilitating the rise of communist parties. In response, the USSR created the Cominform and later the Warsaw Pact. The race for bloc dominance had begun. A divided world. Since 1947, the world was structured into 2 major blocs, capitalist and communist. It wasn't a direct war between the United States and the USSR, but a war fought through others: Vietnam, Korea, Angola, Afghanistan, Chile, Cuba, Nicaragua, the Congo. Civil wars, revolutions, coups, interventions, dictatorships supported by one side or the other. Even the Berlin blockade in 1948 was a sign that Europe could become the next front. It was also a technological and cultural struggle. The space race, propaganda in the media, Olympic competition, and an ideological war that divided families, schools, governments, and continents. The silent threat. All of this happened under the shadow of a constant danger: nuclear war. Both powers developed weapons capable of destroying the entire planet. The world lived on the brink during critical moments, like the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. When the conflict almost broke out directly, it was a cold peace, sustained by mutual fear of total destruction. Consequences of the Cold War. The division of the planet into two political and economic blocs. The multiplication of indirect armed conflicts. The expansion of NATO, and the creation of the Warsaw Pact. The split between China and the USSR, which divided communism into two currents. The consolidation of the United States as the only superpower after the dissolution of the USSR in 1991, and an ideological disillusionment that marked the end of many 20th century utopias. A necessary reflection. The Cold War officially ended with the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the USSR, but its effects are still present in military alliances, in today's territorial tensions, and in the way enemies are still built on the global stage. Remembering May 22nd, 1947 is not just about pointing to a date. It's about understanding how fear and ambition can redraw the world. It's about understanding how blocks are created, invasions justified, and speeches manipulated in the name of freedom. And above all, it's a call to think about who writes the rules of power. Because a war may have no gunfire,